He is still seeing patients at 105 years old, actively treating patients, making diagnoses, contributing to medical science in a hospital he helped build. He kept an appointment book with space for 5 more years. He worked 18 hours a day. He flew to New York at 101 years old to give a lecture, standing for the entire 90 minutes, because sitting, he said, makes the body weak. His name was Dr. Shigeaki Hinohara, Chairman Emeritus of St. Luke's International University in Tokyo, Honorary President of St. Luke's International Hospital, author of over 150 books, including Living Long, Living Good, the book that helped make Japan the longevity leader of the entire world. And when journalists, researchers, and the millions of people who followed his work asked him the question everyone wants answered, how? He did not point to genetics. He did not mention pharmaceuticals. He did not recommend a supplement protocol or an expensive intervention. He pointed to his plate, specifically to a handful of foods he had been eating every single day for decades. Foods so simple, so accessible, so completely ordinary that most people walk past them without a second thought, and to one eating philosophy so counterintuitive to everything the modern world has normalized around food that most people hear it and immediately assume it cannot possibly be the answer. Today, Senior Spring Vitality gives you everything. Dr. Hinohara's complete daily diet, the Okinawan food system he studied and lived, the science behind why these specific foods build a body that functions at 105 the way most people's bodies stop functioning at 65. Drop your country in the comments right now. Where are you watching this from? Because this community reaches every corner of the world, and Dr. Hinohara's story belongs to every single person in it. Stay with us. Because the eating philosophy at the heart of his system, the ancient Japanese principle he called the most important health rule he ever discovered, is something every person over 50 watching this channel needs to hear before this video ends. You need to understand who Dr. Shigeaki Hinohara actually was, because Dr. Hinohara was not a wellness influencer writing books from a comfortable office. He was not a longevity researcher studying other people's habits from a safe academic distance. He was a practicing physician for over 75 years, a man who spent his entire adult life inside medicine, treating patients, publishing research, building institutions, and quietly living every principle he recommended to others. He was born in 1911. He graduated from Kyoto Imperial University School of Medicine in 1937. He survived a plane hijacking in 1970, spending 3 days aboard a hijacked aircraft with 99 passengers, and emerged from that experience not with trauma, but with a renewed philosophy about the preciousness of time and the obligation to use every moment of it purposefully. He wrote over 150 books. He gave 150 lectures every single year. He continued treating patients at St. Luke's International Hospital in Tokyo until just weeks before his death in 2017. He was 105 years old. And the most remarkable detail about his final years, the detail that no other doctor in history can claim, is that he was not diminishing. He was not managing decline. He was contributing. Fully. Actively. With the cognitive sharpness, physical energy, and professional rigor of someone decades younger. His philosophy was not complicated. He said it simply and repeatedly throughout his life. It is not how old you are, but how you are old. A documented biological reality that his own body spent 105 years proving. Here is exactly what built it. One principle. Before the foods, before any practical detail. Because Dr. Hinohara studied the Okinawan centenarians, the longest-lived population ever documented, for decades. And the single most consistent factor he found across every person who reached 100 in extraordinary health was not a specific food. It was a relationship with food. Specifically, an ancient Okinawan principle called Hara Hachibu. 3 words. Spoken before every meal by Okinawan centenarians for generations. a Confucian teaching so embedded in the culture that children learn it before they learn to read. Hara hachi bu means, eat until you are 80% full. Not satisfied. Not stuffed. 80%. Stop before the feeling of fullness arrives, because the signal from the stomach to the brain that says you are full takes approximately 20 minutes to travel. By the time most people feel full, they have already eaten 20 minutes worth of excess food that the body never needed. Dr. Hinohara did not just teach this principle, he lived it more completely than almost anyone. He ate one meal per day as the most disciplined possible expression of Hara hachi bu applied to an entire lifetime. The Okinawa Centenarian Study, the largest study of elderly people ever conducted, found that Okinawans prior to the 1960s consumed 10 to 15% fewer calories than even the Japanese national average. Not through starvation, not through restriction. Through the daily practice of stopping before fullness arrived. And the bodies that daily practice built across a lifetime, lean, low inflammation, metabolically efficient, cognitively sharp, are the bodies that appear in Dr. Hinohara's research as the most extraordinary human longevity data ever recorded. Stop at 80%. Every meal. Every day. That is the foundation underneath every food on this list. Food number 1. And this is Dr. Hinohara's documented morning ritual, verified directly from his interview with the Japan Times, that he maintained every single day for decades. A tablespoon of olive oil, added to his morning orange juice, every single morning. He said it himself. Olive oil is great for the arteries and keeps my skin healthy. A cardiologist and longevity researcher, 105 years old, arteries functioning at the level of a trained athlete, and he attributed part of that directly to 1 tablespoon of olive oil every morning for decades. Here is the science behind why this specific habit matters so profoundly for a body over 50. Extra virgin olive oil contains oleocanthal, a polyphenol compound that inhibits the same inflammatory pathways as ibuprofen. For someone committed to keeping systemic inflammation at the low baseline that longevity requires, daily oleocanthal delivery is not a minor contribution. It is a consistent, compounding, decades-long anti-inflammatory intervention that costs almost nothing. The polyphenols in genuine extra virgin olive oil also directly support arterial wall flexibility, keeping blood vessels supple and responsive rather than stiff and calcified. Dr. Hinohara performed cardiovascular medicine for over 75 years. He understood better than almost anyone alive what arterial health looks like in a body that has been fed correctly versus one that is not. He chose the olive oil every morning for his entire adult life. 1 tablespoon in orange juice before anything else. Food number 2, and this is the anchor protein of Dr. Hinohara's one daily meal, eaten every evening without exception. Fish, prepared simply, never fried. The primary protein source of his entire dietary structure. The traditional Okinawan diet that Dr. Hinohara studied and incorporated into his own life centers fish as the dominant animal protein for specific biological reasons that modern nutritional science has spent decades confirming. Fish, specifically fatty cold water fish, delivers omega-3 fatty acids in the EPA and DHA forms that the body cannot produce independently. These specific omega-3s reduce arterial inflammation, lower triglycerides, maintain the flexibility of cell membranes throughout the body, including in the brain, and directly support the cognitive function that Dr. Hinohara maintained with extraordinary clarity until his final weeks. The Okinawa Centenarian Study documented that Okinawans are 80% less likely to develop heart disease than Westerners, 25% less likely to develop breast or prostate cancer, half as likely to develop colon cancer, and significantly less likely to develop dementia. The fish is not incidental to those statistics. It is central to the biological mechanism behind every single one of them. Dr. Hinohara ate fish for dinner, every evening, simply prepared, for 105 years. The cardiovascular system that resulted performed in medicine until weeks before his death. Food number 3, the foundation of every Okinawan meal that Dr. Hinohara studied and incorporated into his own daily eating. Rice and vegetables, together, as the structural base of the main meal, not as a side dish, but as the primary content of the plate. Here is what most people in the Western world have never been told about the traditional Okinawan dietary structure that produced the world's longest-lived population. Unlike mainland Japanese, who eat significant quantities of white rice, traditional Okinawans actually ate very little rice. Their primary carbohydrate was sweet potato. Purple and orange sweet potato accounted for approximately 60% of total caloric intake in the traditional Okinawan diet. Combined with a wide variety of vegetables, bitter melon called goya, seaweed, green leafy vegetables, daikon radish, and tofu, the plate was almost entirely plant-based at every meal. Sweet potato specifically carries a glycemic index response dramatically lower than white rice or white bread, delivering slow, sustained energy without the blood sugar spikes that drive insulin resistance, visceral fat accumulation, and the inflammatory cascade that underlies chronic disease. It is also exceptionally rich in beta-carotene, vitamin C, potassium, and fiber. The micronutrient profile that keeps every organ system in the body performing at the level Dr. Hinohara's performed at 105. Rice and vegetables, together, every evening meal, for over a century. I need to stop here and show you something that the food industry does not want trending, because there is a natural experiment that has been running in Okinawa for the last 60 years, a before and after so clear, so documented, so scientifically unambiguous that it should be on the front page of every newspaper in the world. It is not, because the companies that caused it have marketing budgets larger than the GDP of most countries. Here is what happened. After World War II, the United States military established a significant presence in Okinawa. American fast food arrived. Processed food arrived. Refined sugar arrived. Meat consumption increased dramatically. The ancient dietary patterns that had built the world's longest-lived population began to be replaced, one meal at a time, by the Western diet. And the health statistics of Okinawa began to change. For almost 30 years prior to the year 2000, Okinawa had the longest life expectancy of all 47 prefectures in Japan. The longest-lived people on the entire island nation with the longest life expectancy on Earth. By 2002, Okinawa had fallen from 4th to 26th place in the ranking of Japanese prefectures for longevity in less than 2 generations. The genetics did not change. The climate did not change. The island did not move. The food changed. And a population that had been quietly proving for centuries that the human body can function in extraordinary health for over 100 years, began dying at the same rate as everyone else eating the Western diet. Dr. Hinohara watched this happen. He documented it. He spoke about it. He warned about it in his books and his lectures and his interviews for decades. And he kept eating his fish and vegetables and olive oil and one meal a day, while the world around him slowly replaced its ancient food wisdom with a drive-through culture that has now produced the most chronically diseased generation in recorded human history. The experiment is over. The results are published. The food destroyed the longevity of the world's longest-lived people in less than 50 years. What is it doing to your body right now? And if Senior Spring Vitality is the channel giving you the documented truth that the food industry spends billions obscuring, subscribe right now. Hit the notification bell. We publish every single week, and the algorithm will not show you the next video unless you tell it to. Food number 4. And this category appears in the diet of virtually every Okinawan centenarian documented across the 30-year research period that Dr. Hinohara studied. Fermented soy, miso soup, tofu, natto, edamame. Not processed soy products stripped of their biological matrix and pressed into protein bars. Whole fermented soy in its traditional forms. Eaten daily as part of the complete dietary system. Here is why fermented soy specifically does something that no other protein source replicates in the Okinawan longevity context. Traditional fermented soy products contain isoflavones, plant compounds that interact with estrogen receptors in a way that the research on Okinawan women's health has consistently connected to dramatically lower rates of breast cancer and significantly reduced menopausal symptoms compared to Western women eating the standard American diet. The fermentation process makes these isoflavones bioavailable in a fundamentally different way from isolated soy supplements, delivering them within a complete matrix of fiber, beneficial bacteria, and cofactor nutrients that regulate how the body uses them. The same compound that in supplement form shows inconsistent and sometimes concerning effects in postmenopausal women, in whole fermented food form has been quietly protecting Okinawan women's health for centuries. Miso soup every morning. Tofu at the main meal. These are not exotic additions to a complicated protocol. They are the daily food habits of a population that has the lowest cancer rates in the documented world. Food number 5, and this is the drink that flows through every documented account of Japanese longevity like a thread connecting every century of extraordinary health to the next. Green tea. Drunk multiple times every day, as a cultural practice so deeply embedded in Japanese daily life that its health benefits were delivered consistently for centuries before anyone understood the mechanism behind them. Here is what green tea does inside the body at the level where aging actually happens. Green tea contains EGCG, epigallocatechin galate, one of the most studied antioxidant compounds in all of nutritional science. EGCG has been documented in peer-reviewed research to inhibit the growth of cancer cells, reduce arterial inflammation, support brain health through protection of neurons from oxidative damage, and activate the same SIRT1 longevity pathway that resveratrol from red wine activates in the Sardinian centenarians we covered in a previous video. But the compound that most people never hear about is L-theanine, an amino acid found almost exclusively in green tea that crosses the blood-brain barrier and produces a state of calm, focused alertness, without the cortisol spike that coffee creates. The combination of caffeine and L-theanine in green tea produces a mental clarity that Dr. Hinohara maintained while giving lectures, standing up at 95, flying to New York at 101, and seeing patients at 105. Multiple cups, every single day. Here is Dr. Shigeaki Hinohara's complete daily system, his documented actual daily life, verified from multiple interviews and publications across his final decades. Morning, the ritual that never changed. Coffee, a glass of milk, orange juice with 1 tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil stirred in, every single morning without exception for decades. Just this. Simple. Delivering the arterial protective polyphenols of olive oil, the vitamin C of fresh orange juice, the calcium of milk, and the cognitive activating compounds of coffee before the day begins. This is followed by green tea, multiple cups across the morning. Drunk while working. Because Dr. Hinohara worked every morning of his adult life and saw no reason to separate the nourishment of the body from the nourishment of the mind. Throughout the day, water and green tea. Nothing else. No snacking. No grazing. No mid-morning hunger-driven poor choices. The olive oil from breakfast and the L-theanine from the green tea sustain energy and focus across the working hours without the blood sugar roller coaster that most people manage with coffee and processed snacks. Evening, the one meal, the main event, fish. Simply prepared, grilled, steamed, or in a traditional Japanese broth. Sweet potato or rice, an abundance of vegetables, bitter melon, seaweed, leafy greens, daikon, miso soup alongside, tofu as additional protein, fermented vegetables as the gut-supporting final element of the day. Eaten slowly, mindfully, stopped at 80% full, never at 100%. Finished early in the evening, allowing the overnight fast that Dr. Hinohara's one-meal-a-day structure extended to its most powerful possible length. Movement, built into every moment. Always took the stairs, always 2 at a time, to keep the muscles working and the cardiovascular system challenged, carried his own luggage, gave lectures standing up for 60 to 90 minutes, walked whenever walking was possible. He said simply, "I take 2 stairs at a time to get my muscles moving." Purpose. Every single morning. Dr. Hinohara's concept of ikigai, the Japanese word for reason to wake up, was not abstract philosophy. It was a daily practice. He woke up every morning with something specific to contribute. Patients to see. Lectures to give. Books to write. Knowledge to share. He said, when people stop working, they stop stimulating their minds. At 105, he still had 5 years of appointments scheduled. Here is the data that Dr. Hinohara spent his career studying, and that every person over 50 watching this channel deserves to understand completely. The Okinawa Centenarian Study, the largest study of elderly people ever conducted, funded by Japan's Ministry of Health, documented over 600 Okinawan centenarians across 30 years of research. What it found cannot be explained away by genetics or climate or geography. Okinawans eating the traditional diet are 80% less likely to develop heart disease than Westerners, not 10% less likely, not 30% less likely, 80%. They are 25% less likely to develop breast or prostate cancer, half as likely to develop colon cancer, significantly less likely to develop dementia. The 3 leading killers in the Western world, coronary heart disease, stroke, and cancer, occur in traditional Okinawans with the lowest frequency documented anywhere on Earth. And then the Western diet arrived, and within 2 generations those numbers began moving toward the Western average. The foods did not just correlate with the health outcomes, they were producing them. The removal of the foods produced the opposite outcome at a speed that shocked the researchers who were watching it happen in real time. Dr. Hinohara watched it too, and kept eating his fish, and his vegetables, and his morning olive oil, and his green tea, and his one evening meal stopped at 80% full, because the data was not ambiguous. And he was a doctor. And doctors who understand data act on it. His entire professional life was dedicated to one mission, giving people the information they needed to live longer, healthier, and more purposefully than the world expected them to. Senior Spring Vitality exists for the same reason. Subscribe right now. Hit the notification bell. Share this video with one person in your life who needs to hear Dr. Hinohara's story today. Which of Dr. Hinohara's 5 foods or habits are you starting this week? That is where 105 years of extraordinary health begins. Dr. Hinohara kept his appointment book open for 5 more years at the age of 105. How far ahead is yours open? This is Senior Spring Vitality. We will see you in the next one.